Okay, so what did I end up with? The dreaded airbag light is on. I went to a mechanics, had to use their AB2 scanner, said it was just a battery fault. They cleared the code. However, as soon as I drove out, again the airbag sensor light came on. So what it most likely is the clock spring. What is the clock spring? It's the small device that connects to your airbag, as well as also connects to your controls on your steering wheel, which allows you to turn the steering wheel without the wires getting bound up on each other. To replace that, I'm going to have to remove the steering wheel. This is just a video record of what I would do to fix the problem. I'm not a mechanic. They do recommend that you don't do anything surrounding the airbags. However, if you do, you should really disconnect the battery and wait at least 20 minutes before touching it to ensure that the system is fully discharged. Okay, once you've fully discharged the system, what you should see is there's a hole on either side of the steering wheel where there's a Torx bolt. So you'll need to have the appropriate sized part. Torx setting. I've got it on a screwdriver. There's a similar hole on this side. Both of those bolts need to be undone. Other thing to be sure of before you get started is to make sure that your wheels are facing directly straight ahead. Okay, so once you've undone the bolts, what you have to do is pull off the center section of the wheel. It does take a little bit of force to pop out, but when it comes out, you should be able to see that there's actually, if I can get that on there, some little retention clips that hold it in. But obviously there's where it screws into later on. You can see there's actually a center bolt. So that's what you've actually got to mark to make sure things are in line when you go to put the wheel straight back on. This has already got a nice little mark there for me, so I'll be able to use that. But if it doesn't have a mark, you'll need to use a pen or a Nico or some other way of identifying where the where the steering wheel should be going back on. So that dot there should line up with that mark on the spline. Other things we're going to have to do is, you can see the clock spring is actually in behind there, but we're just going to have to disconnect this part of the wheel, which is actually disconnecting onto the airbag right here, and the horn control unit. So what I'll have to do is just wait for a little bit longer for that to fully discharge, and then I'll be using a screwdriver just unclipping the components that are required, and I'll show you those when I get there. Okay, so as I said earlier, you can take the flat bladed screwdriver and just gently pry that out. Out she comes, and then you've disconnected these side buttons. So just bring that out and away. And the next bit is the yellow component. It was really easy. All I had to do, as soon as I pulled down on the clip, it disconnected on its own, so I didn't have to wiggle it out. Easy. So it's a 17mm socket to fit that. I was really tight to undo to begin with. Obviously you want to do it tight. To do that, you've actually got to hang on to the steering wheel and go to do it. It unwinds in the normal way. And it's just a matter of off it comes. Okay, after using a steering wheel puller to take off the wheel, that's just to pop the wheel off. It'll now be a matter of getting access to the screws, which I might have to undo the bottom cowling of this and pop it open, but I'm hoping that I should be able to just move that far enough that I should be able to get access to it, but we'll see what happens. I probably have to remove the plastic components to separate it out. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so if you look up in under there are two screws that need to come out to separate the plastic components. I believe there are a couple of clips inside here holding it together. It's just going to be gentle as you pry it apart. I'll probably just use either a proper separating kit or just a flat-bladed screwdriver. Excellent. Once removing those 2 screws were done, the whole thing popped apart really easily. It's just a matter of, you can see the clips just have to go back in together. That popped off quite nicely and very easy to do. So now all I've got to do is remove 1, 2 screws and the clock spring should come off. Okay, so as you see now I've removed both of those screws and the clock spring should just gently disengage. So off it comes. Okay, so there are 2 connectors at the back. Pushes back in, stays on. Alright, so it's just the 2 connectors at the back that need removing. They seem fairly simple, just unclipping them as such, taking off the clip. And they should just unclip. Okay, so this is now fully disconnected, so you can see it's the same. That's the old one, this is the new one. It's a matter of reconnecting everything back up in the reverse order that we just did it. Make sure you don't remove that until you've fed these through the steering wheel, and then you should be able to remove it. Okay, the new one just popped back on. We can see that it's all lined up and we're ready to be re-screwed back in and put the wheel back on. Alright, so now is the time to remove the lock pin. You can actually see that it is properly centered over here. You can see that the yellow's in there. We just pull that out, making sure it doesn't move in the process of putting the steering wheel back on. To do that, we simply feed the wires back through. Okay, as you can see, dots lined up with dots, so we're on straight. Okay, so we're on straight, and all we need to do now is tighten the nut down to ensure the wheel is engaged on the spline. Alright, steering wheel nut is on. Now it's just a matter of putting the rest back together and making the connections, which is just the reverse of what we did to get it off. Okay, steering wheel back on. Just got to pretty much plug the car back in and see what happens.